Boom. We are back. We are back. We are back. And episode 37. It's been a long time coming. This week's episode is called Marvel's Week of Madness. We're actually going to announce the name of the episode, each episode now. I've decided that. One of the things I think...
I fucks with that.
Yeah, you know.
First time hearing of it. It's great. I love it.
I mean, I've been realizing, like, I just say what episode it is. We don't even announce what we're talking about. People just kind of find out. And another thing I wanted to do is say what we're talking about. So this episode, we're going to be talking about 4 topics. One, inside Joystick Maverick, who's going to talk about the things we've been discussing here on our end with the show, with it moving forward, and how we're going to actually do it. The other side of that is we got a segment called What If, which we're going to be talking about what if Guy Ritchie actually directed a Marvel movie. So I think that's going to be fun. And then we're going to roll into the crazy, mad things that happened in Marvel over this past week. One being Moon Knight, which was totally cucked by Star Wars Day. We'll get to that. And then, of course, Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness to round it out. So at least you know right away what segments you want.
Whether you want to stick around or not.
Yeah.
Which you should always stick around.
Yes. I do think that it's something we can kind of lead right into with Inside Joystick Maverick. We've had a year of episodes under our belt. We had a nice little anniversary episode, and then we took a hiatus. We needed a break. I think I did. I know you did, Dom. And I think it allowed us to kind of take measure of what we'd accomplished, what was working, and what wasn't. I think 3-hour episodes are for the birds. Nobody's going to listen to that, and so we're aware of that.
Bro, I'm 33 years old. I don't got 3 hours.
Seriously. The other piece is again, it was a mystery, right? What are we going to talk about? Like every episode, granted, it's in the show notes, but nobody reads those. I don't even read those, and I write them. So I mean, just a list of things that we're going to ramble on about. It's much, much smaller. So each
not to take away from Mike Mahaffey's work.
Oh yeah,
show notes. He fucking kills it every time.
I really hope he didn't take offense to that, because I definitely I need those notes and those pronunciations, as we all know.
Yeah,
but now the goal is to try to focus on a smaller group of topics and not just read the headlines. I think that was something I thought was going to be helpful or kind of interesting, but I think it just chewed up more time. It took away from really the energy we had by the time we got to the final round.
Yeah.
So now that we truncate that, we make that segment a little bit smaller. We'll be able to actually get rid of the headlines. We'll be able to get past no more in memoriams. Fuck that. You can read about that on Twitter. And we're just going to go straight into the fun stuff. Sound good?
I think it's awesome.
Badass.
I fucks with it.
Awesome. So there you go. Number 1 done. See how fast?
Yeah, I mean, we took a break. We had a lot of shit going on in our lives. I quit my day job. We had a friend die. It's been a rough couple of weeks.
Yeah, we a friend of the show died. We had you quit your job, which, by the way, to me is a victory. I'm going to publicly say, fuck that job.
It doesn't feel like a victory yet. I'm sure. I mean, I'm still there until the end of May, but we'll see.
You don't feel a little bit good going from the pan into the fire? I mean,
I'll feel a little better after this week, depending on what happens this week. But yeah.
I actually got an offer accepted on a house. Granted, it doesn't mean shit. I got to actually close on it.
Market. That's enormous.
Yeah, dude. So I'm really excited about that. So hopefully what that'll do is provide me not a gym /playroom/library/pantry to do the show from, in a new place over the next couple of weeks, and just hopefully create a better show. So
yeah,
I'm definitely feeling rested. I needed the show. I missed the show. I
Me
like
too.
it forces me to read stuff. Speaking of things, this is already off topic. I'm already off the rails.
Let's just talk,
Bro, I read the lives and deaths of Wolverine. Great series run.
Okay,
I read the death of Doctor Strange.
Heard that was awesome.
Thank God I did that before seeing the movie.
Yeah,
because that actually told me about a character I had no idea actually existed. And then I started getting into the Eternals run. It's a
it's a little
run.
dry. Which one
chewy.
are you talking about? Neil Gaiman's, like the one from a couple years back?
No, the latest one right now, the new one.
That leads to like
chewy.
Eternals versus X-Men, right?
Really?
I think there's a Eternals versus the Marvel universe coming up, where it's they did that whole Avengers versus X-Men thing, like while we were working at the fruit stand. Yes. And I think they're doing another like big like crossover event of Eternals fighting the rest of the Marvel universe, but I'm not 100% sure. I think that is though.
Well, I honestly hope there's some payoff here. I actually am really thankful for the movie. Well, the movie wasn't really the biggest thing for me. It was great for some and big for many, but like to me, if it didn't really hit the way I thought I was going to, my problem is I'm always going to be having this expectation of Avengers Endgame. And every subsequent
I think we have a lot to say about I have a lot to say about that when we get to our last topic, because I agree with you 100% that I'm trying to live everything up to Endgame and nothing's gonna live that up because we had 12 years of fucking build up before that movie came out. So.
Yeah. I mean, I have no connection with the Eternals, whereas I had a connection sitting in a college library, fist bumping the air, seeing that, Robert Downey Jr. was going to play Iron Man, and people not really getting why. I'm like, it's a drug addict who flies in a metal suit, and it's Robert Downey Jr.
For Robert Downey Jr. I mean, Christ,
he has a redemption story in real life.
Yeah,
but I don't really have any of that with these actors. And granted, I've seen them a lot of British TV, but I digress. So having said that, British TV, British movies,
Guy Ritchie
is a pretty good segue. Yeah, Guy Ritchie. So, yeah, I'm working on him. I'm a little rusty. It's been about a month and some change. So
yeah.
But no, it actually came up right before the show. It's the only reason it's even popped up in here is because Mahaffey actually messaged you, Dom, or excuse me, was he? Yeah. Let me make sure I'm being honest here. I kicked that off. Yeah, Mahaffey, I love Guy Ritchie movies. You saying you need to watch The Gentleman, and you also love Guy Ritchie movies. I too am a huge Guy Ritchie fan. Ever since Snatch was my first introduction.
Yeah.
Lock, Stock, Two Smoking Barrels also had a Jason Statham in it. A young
Rock and Rolla.
Jason Statham. Oh, Rock and Rolla.
Rock and Rolla with first time I ever saw Tom Hardy in a movie.
Really? A gay Tom Hardy.
Yeah. Yeah, he was shit. I can't remember his name. I know who he is though. But he's the one that they think he's gay.
Yeah,
and he's actually gay.
he's like, yeah, he's gay. He's like, you know what? And I love that.
Bob?
Handsome Bob. I think you're right. I think it's Handsome Bob. But like, I love that whole scene in the car where it's Gerard Butler, great, Idris Elba, great, and they're talking about Handsome Bob and how like, he took care of your mother while you were in jail, and if he asked me if he could blow me, I'd have to pause, like, just because they love him so much. Like he'd do it just because he loves them. You had to think about it, but instead of outright no, which is ridiculous. And then that's when somebody reveals the rest of the plot of that movie, and it's like, it's a pseudonym, you idiot. And he's like, how do you know a word like pseudonym?
I can't believe I pulled Handsome Bob out of my ass. I haven't seen that movie in fucking years. I love that movie so much.
I mean, who doesn't love Tom Hardy, right? Even skinny Tom Hardy from Star Trek.
Oh yeah, he's so good in that.
I kind of at first when I saw him
Star Trek Nemesis, right? Tom Hardy.
Yeah, real skinny.
You hear
he was
about
in Band of Brothers too.
He was like on like drugs when he did Star Trek Nemesis. He talks about it like he was just coked out of his mind the whole time he was doing that.
Well, I mean, he looked I think it was around the same time. And he looked, just disheveled in Band of Brothers. He was played a young,
and then went into
private,
where he's fucking jacked.
Yeah, right before Bane, just
right before
all
he
that time frame.
Bane.
Insane.
You know, Guy Ritchie directed Aladdin, the new Aladdin, with Will Smith. I had no idea that was Guy Ritchie.
I'm sorry.
I looked it up. I had no idea. Like,
I have IMDb up for everything else we're talking about tonight, except for Guy Ritchie, and now I feel like this is a huge fucking mistake.
Like,
what are some of the other ones you didn't know?
Lock, Stock, Snatch, Rock and Rolla, King Arthur, Legend of the Sword, which I heard was pretty good.
It is pretty good. I don't know.
The Man from U.N.C.L.E.
That was good.
The Gentleman, and then Aladdin. Like, I mean, he did Aladdin.
And then the Sherlock Holmes movies.
Sherlock Holmes, obviously. Sherlock Holmes. I mean,
Wrath of Man was fun. Beats by Dre, Made Defiant, the mixtape.
I don't know
what.
I heard the Gentleman was dope. Mike said he was watching it recently, or he said he was watching it now. I think before we started the show.
What I didn't realize is they're making The Gentleman a TV series as well, and he's directing those.
Oh, really?
It's in pre-production. I'm seeing episodes 1 and 2. He's doing that.
Yeah.
I did like The Gentleman. I will say that every moment that an older actor gets to like really make new age punks feel like babies is hilarious to me.
Like, I saw the one Charlie Hunnam clip for it.
Did you see the one with Colin Farrell just getting a sandwich?
where they're in the like the pizza shop or some shit.
Yeah, those two scenes.
Yeah. Fantastic. Yeah, I've seen those two scenes, and I'm like, man, I'm in. And then I saw one recently with Matthew McConaughey. I'm like, man, this fucking movie's sick. But nothing beats like Snatch, Lock, Stock, and Rock and Roll. I mean, Snatch. I mean, we quoted that movie for fucking years.
Yeah.
Anytime.
It's the only reason I know what a Desert Eagle is.
It was you lost gorgeous George.
He's not exactly a pair of fucking car keys, now is he? Yeah.
Was it? I love that. I honestly, my favorite line from that whole movie is when he's talking and he's like, "Do you know what the word nemesis means?" And he defines nemesis. He's like, "Or an honorable cunt like me."
Like me.
So good.
I think the one I quote probably the most is when somebody says something ridiculous, and I say, "In the quiet words of the Virgin Mary, come again." Yeah, come again.
So good. I have to rewatch that recently. I need to rewatch this. I might just go on a Guy Ritchie binge this week and start watching all this shit.
But speaking of, so now that we know kind of, his
who he is,
right? They're usually like crime based, or there's multiple parts of a story that culminate in all of the key players ending up most of the time in the same room, not in the way you expect them to, and everybody gets their pants pulled down basically, and all your secrets are revealed. What Marvel heroes or anti-heroes, or shoot, even just something with a bunch of villains would you personally like to see?
So the obvious choice to me for Guy Ritchie is Deadpool. For me, like, that makes the most sense. There's a lot of fourth wall breaking in Deadpool. There's a lot of like jokes, like toilet humor and all that stuff. However, I will say, after watching Moon Knight this last couple, like 6 weeks, Guy Ritchie could do a fucking phenomenal Moon Knight with the jump cuts that he does in all of his movies, and the jump cuts between Mark Spector and Steven, and you're like, man, he would do a really good job. I mean, I think a Guy Ritchie Moon Knight project would be sick. A Guy Ritchie Daredevil project would be sick. It's got to be somebody grounded. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not going to be your Captain Americas, your Iron Mans. Like, even though he directed Robert Downey Jr. and Sherlock Holmes, like, it's not going to be those guys, but it's going to be like your Defenders, your Midnight Suns. I know that's what. Yeah, I mean,
I told you earlier, Midnight Suns, and the only reason I think that would work really well is if you took the angle of, the ground level of those heroes. Like Blade is among them. In any Blade movie, there's always like over dramatic jumps and flips, and like if all of a sudden Blade is just like an annoyed vampire because he's just trying to like solve whatever problem, and just that actor being irritated, just being irritated and just like over everybody because they're so slow, and then just not wanting to deal with fucking Mark or Stephen Grant, like just being over it. And then finally, Jake shows up. He's at least likes him or something like that. I would love that angle.
X-Force could be a good one. Like, it's like the B Team X-Men, but like the angry ones, like all the angry X-Men go and start X-Force. Honestly, Guy Ritchie could do a fucking bang up Suicide Squad if we're talking DC. I mean, the Suicide Squad's built for a Guy Ritchie movie. And essentially, the first movie, if you look at it kind of holistically, and I know this is kind of treason to say, kind of runs like a Guy Ritchie movie, with all the jump cuts and the like one-liners and the cracks and all that stuff. It's just not really well put together. Like
it's a poor man's Guy Ritchie movie. poor David Ayer. What up, Mahaffey? Watching on Twitch today. Ooh,
it can't be that good. The Ayer cut can't be as good as David Ayer thinks it is.
I don't think it exists. I think they burned it. I think they were like, can't do it now because it's gone.
Now, don't get me wrong. Everybody hates Jared Leto. I would love to see Jared Leto reprise the Joker just because I loved what he did for the 35 seconds of screen time that he had in the Snyder cut.
See, that's the hard part for me is like how long do we fucking have to wait to get from weirdo tattoos and teeth grill shit to that version?
I killed Robin and fucking with your head.
Yeah. Like I
mean,
trash in a bar, fucking who cares? Yeah. Trashing Batman and destroying one of the Robins. I want that version immediately. So, but no, I have to agree, man. It's just
Guy Ritchie should direct the top tracksuit mafia film. Fuck, Guy Ritchie could have done the damn Matt Fraction Hawkeye book probably pretty well too. Damn.
Oh shit. Yeah, you're actually the tracksuit mafia. That them having their own show. I think would be entertaining as shit.
That would be really good.
That's a good shout out. Thanks, Mike Mahaffey on Twitch today. Man, you're right though. It's got to be angsty. It's got to be ground level. It can't be celestial or anything like that. It's got to be.
I mean, he could do the Guardians of the Galaxy. I mean, that could, like, if you made a Guardians of the Galaxy movie like a Guy Ritchie movie, I think you could do that as well. It's just hard to replace James Gunn, and it's interesting that I said 2 James Gunn movies that he could do because they're both very similar when it comes to the directing style.
Yeah. And it makes me think of Edgar Wright in the same vein too.
Edgar Wright also, yeah.
But no,
anybody who can direct Simon Pegg and Nick Frost the way Edgar Wright does is good in my book.
I can't believe they just never killed him. Like the interview I saw after was that third in the Cornetto trilogy. This is the end.
World's End.
The World's End. That's it. They were Nick Frost was just over it. He was over Edgar's shit. He's like, we didn't think we were going to come back and do it because he's so particular. We did that bar fight scene like 37 times. It's like, yeah, screw that. He's like, it was 2 days just to get that one choreographed dance sequence in hip just perfect. Which, granted, it paid off because it was a great scene. But now that we kind of touched base on it a little bit, Moon Knight. So Moon Knight, I will say it all day, every day. We actually had our last episode, and then Moon Knight's first episode came out, and we were thinking about coming back from episode 37, and that was going to be with the first episode. But thankfully, I'm glad we got to the end.
Yeah,
I really want to focus on it and talk about it. Episode 1 of Moon Knight kind of starts us off, which is called the goldfish problem. Actually, let me back this up. Let's go one step further back. Moon Knight. Easy synopsis. Ready to go. Here you go. Yeah, Stephen Grant and mercenary Mark Spector investigate the mysteries of the Egyptian gods from inside the same body. Pretty straightforward. But when you're actually introduced to the show, what I like is that it's all from the view of Stephen Grant, who is not. Yeah. We don't know at this point in the beginning. Oh, let me go ahead and throw this up there. New banner alert. Spoiler alert. Here we go. We're about to go into some spoilers for the entire season of Moon Knight. If you have not seen it, this is your warning. 3, 2, 1. Yeah, so we get this point of view from Stephen Grant, who's a seemingly kind of meek gift shop attendee who ends up being a superhero, but also maybe sharing a body with a ruthless mercenary, and Mark Spector. And we're kind of led to believe that he is the person who is the host of that body and not the alternate. And I love that because, if you're a comic book fan, you already know that Mark Spector is the host and that Stephen Grant is an alter. But what, if you're new to it and you haven't read the comics or anything like that, you kind of get introduced to it a little slower than right away. You get these jumps of him holding a gun and people just falling dead out of trucks. He's jumping from London to different cities and stuff like that. And just being put in these really awkward situations. That to me set the tone for like the intrigue for your average fan right in the first episode.
The first episode I really liked because it was just I don't know much about I didn't know much about Moon Knight going into it. I knew that Moon Knight was Mark Spector, and then to start the show off with Stephen Grant, you're like, who the fuck is this? But like, hats off to Oscar Isaac, who's not British, but you couldn't tell based off that accent. Like, nails the accent, nails the Mark Spector accent. I mean, the guy's he grew up in Miami, and his parents are Hispanic, and
as he defined himself, Hollywood has said that he is racially ambiguous.
No, he's from he's from Guatemala. His family's from Guatemala.
Yeah, that's what he put in his opening monologue for SNL. Is like, when you get a person who's Guatemalan and half or parts
Cuban,
whatever else, that's it. Cuban and Guatemalan, you get what Hollywood calls racially ambiguous.
Right.
So you can fit in every role, which.
And he played a Jewish man in this.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, yeah.
Mark Spector is Jewish. We get a Stephen Grant who is British, so you get those people in. And then, spoilers, much further ahead, there's a potential third alternate, Jake Lockley, who is Hispanic, basically. Like
he's a Hispanic. He's a cab driver in New York.
Yeah, it's wonderful. Just all those different people getting put out there. And then the other person we get who becomes a superhero, played by May Colomway. Did I get it? I think so. Character Layla El Fowley. She becomes the first Egyptian superhero, right? Like,
yeah, Golden Scarab. I think Gold Scarab is what her name is.
Gold Scarab, or I heard it was Scarlet Scarab.
Scarlet Scarab.
I think that evidently that character, Scarlet Scarab, is actually a real character in the comics, but it was a dude. Just same name, really, kind of similar powers, but really drastically different origin stories. With we'll go over here in a little bit, but the other person I thought had a great entrance was Ethan Hawke's character. Was it Mark Harrow? Arthur Harrow.
Yeah. Arthur Harrow.
Arthur Harrow in the comic was kind of a throwaway character. Evidently, he was just an evil Nazi. Yeah. Clearly, a much different character in this. He is a disciple of Ammit, the goddess of just judgment. Basically, she will weigh your scales of life, and if you're good, at the end of the day, you live. If you're bad, you're done. She doesn't give you the chance to commit the evil, which, taking away free will, not really great in most literary sources. So I think that was going to always have a conflict there. Whereas Khonshu, who is the god who basically creates Moon Knight, gives Mark Spector the opportunity to be his avatar on Earth. He at least allows you the chance to fuck shit up before you get his judgment through Moon Knight. That leads into episode 2 a little bit. It's called Summon the Suit. This is actually my fun episode because you first get to see Mr. Knight, which is I thought was a neat treatment for any kind of character in general, but the personality of the person instructs what the suit should look like. Yeah. Right? So Mark Spector gets this kind of epic cape thing with a cowl and all that, whereas Stephen Grant gets a nice suit, which the textures on that suit alone, somebody incredible. Was paying attention. It looks amazing.
Yeah.
And then you get a full-on mask, the glowy eyes. The eyes don't look ridiculous either. Like, I thought they would be kind of funky, glowing eyes, but like they actually kind of played. They still emoted,
I think they were good.
Well, yeah. And the actual movements from Oscar Isaacs really helped sell it as well. Him being able to maneuver and really exaggerate his movements, because you can't see his mouth. The moneymaker is hidden behind the mask, so you got to really kind of get after it. And even just like the jolly, like, I just hit you in the face. Yeah, it was awesome. And this episode was pretty freaking fantastic. Overall, I think it starts really kind of taking off really towards the end of episode 3. Episode 3 felt like a filler episode. It's called The Friendly Type. Synopsis is this is where Mark in the forefront and Harrow ahead. Mark and Layla navigate Cairo for intel. So Harrow is now on his way to the grave of Amit, and he's going to release her and hopefully become her avatar. And he's got this scarab that everybody's been after for these 3 episodes. I'm definitely jumping around, but that's what I get. We're doing a new format. I'll get better. But but I like that in this episode we get to learn more about Layla, right? We get to learn her past, her dad's death. There's a connection to the black market and the underground. She's got history in Cairo. We were given the opportunity to begin setting up for the character played by Gaspard
Ulliel.
It was Anton Mogart. Anton Mogart becomes what avatar later on?
I can't remember, but he does become one.
Right. So he becomes kind of a pivotal character in the Moon Knight arc. And unfortunately, that actor died, as we know, skiing. A very European death, as we said, many in mornings ago.
Amount of people.
Yeah. So that again, it was a filler episode. It was very much like, hey, here's a bunch of information about the mythos of the world. They got to try to find some sarcophagus that has some star maps and blah blah blah. And it was just kind of filling out their universe, I think. Somebody made a comparison online to all the episode 4s of all of these Marvel Disney Plus series, and episode 4 has been where
like the pivotal moment.
Yeah, we get like a real crest, and everybody's like fist punching in the air, or there's a big reveal that sets the tone for the last 2 episodes. And I definitely think episode 4, The Tomb, is where that hits. Episode 4, at the end of episode C, we actually see episode 3. We see Stephen Grant is actually running the body, and he's actually using his knowledge of the star maps and all that to read ancient Egyptian and to actually figure out where this tomb is based off of something they find in a sarcophagus. Unfortunately, what Stephen realizes is that you can't do anything about that, because when it was made, the stars have moved. It's been several thousands of years. And well, we can't really figure that out. And then who shows up but Khonshu, who gives him the play, voiced by none other than
F. Murray Abraham.
F. Murray Abraham. That's it. I can't remember his middle name, I guess. What do you think F stands for? Frank? F. Murray Abraham stands for Jerry. F. Jerry. But yeah, so he actually, for those of you guys who watch Mythic Quest, he plays C.W. Longbottom, the old, a little bit more dashing kind of writer who's a little bit too raunchy for his own good, because he's just like the dirty old man.
Yeah.
Khonshu is just a dirty old murderer. Wants people to die for their evil. But in this episode, he lets Steven control the night sky and roll back time so they can use this magical tablet that has the ability to read the star maps and immediately tell them pinpoint accuracy of where they got to go for this tomb. That part's a little fuzzy wuzzy movie magic for me, but I guess it is several years in the future in the Marvel universe now. It's not even 2022, it's like 2026 or something like that. So we'll just say that we jump pretty fast in 4 years. But that causes Khonshu to be judged by his fellow gods, and the fellow gods and their avatars imprison him in stone, which loses Moon Knight's powers, and unfortunately that just makes Mark Spector and Stephen Grant normal crazy people.
Yep.
Womp womp. Next, rolling into episode 4, this is the crescendo. I think they know where the tomb is now. They're going to try to catch up to Harrow and the goons, and it's Layla and Mark. I'm just going to call him Mark from here on out.
It's a good idea.
Yeah, since he is the primary. Layla and Mark, they skedaddle. They find the tomb, and they catch up to Harrow, and there's just nothing but carnage at the dig site. Everybody's dead. They're getting into the tomb and realizing that the tomb is shaped like the Eye of Ra. And there's a little bit of like, I don't know, history and nonsense that they go into explaining. Oh, that's what this is supposed to be. This is what this part of the Eye of Ra represents, and this is probably the way to go. And they basically walk into a mummification chamber that's been freshly used. So now everybody's interest should be piqued as we start to hear horrifying screeching. And as they hide, this gruesome looking mummy shows up, which was great makeup. I mean, that thing
very much so
terrifying. It of course reminded me of my favorite mummy movie, The Mummy, and all those mummies that were in there.
Fraser.
Yeah, would have been great if it was just Brendan Fraser coming around the corner and getting murdered by a mummy. It's just but I digress. So, long story short, they end up actually finding the tomb, and lo and behold, everything in the tomb points to this isn't an Egyptian tomb. This is what it was,
Macedonian.
Look at you, bro. I love you. Macedonian tomb, and it's Alexander the Great, who evidently was a previous avatar of Amit. And he plays Midnight Man. Thank you, Mahaffey. That's who that guy plays, Midnight Man.
Midnight
Man. How did I not remember that from The Night Man, Midnight Man, by Charlie Day? Day Man. But no, anyway, so they find out it's Alexander the Great, and after digging inside of the corpse of Alexander the Great, they find Amit's tiny stone imprisonment, and just in time for all the bad guys to show up and kill Mark Spector. Pew, pew, pew. You're done. And as he slowly falls into just water on the floor randomly in this tomb, nothing but sand around it forever.
Yep. Water,
there's a bunch of water, and it was clean as shit water too. Not an ounce of soot, no sediment. And he falls into it, which slowly looks like he falls into this, I guess, portal to hell, if you will. And he wakes up in his psych ward. And that's when everybody starts going, huh?
Yeah.
And Mark Spector's a little out of it. You start to see all these different people in the psych ward, a lot of familiar faces. The actress that plays Layla is there as a fellow patient who is totally dicking Mark over because he just won some bingo, but she's going to take the prize for it. She swears she'll share it this time, but she won't. And even like the other people in the psych ward, I didn't realize this at the time, but thankfully there are plenty of sleuths on TikTok to point out that like the street
they're all
man,
people.
Yeah. Everybody he's talking, even like the boss at the gift shop is there. So like things like that was really great little nods. And Steven falls over, has a little episode, and gets to meet his doctor, aka Arthur Harrow, aka Ethan Hawke. And that's where we're left to try to think, is this real? Is he actually crazy in the psych ward crazy? And then lo and behold, he's not. Right? Episode 5, The Asylum. This is where things kind of
probably the best episode, I would say, of the show.
Yeah, I would love to hear your digest of this. I feel like I've just been taking up all the time here. I'm sorry, buddy.
No. I think that I love this part of the show because it's backstory for Mark Spector and why he is the way that he is. he meets the hippopotamus at the end of episode 4. I can't remember the name of the hippopotamus, but
Tarowet.
Tarowet, yeah. And Tarowet is ferrying the dead to the field of reeds in Egyptian mythology. And during that, you have the scales, the weighing of the hearts against the feather. And his scales are out of balance because he has multiple personalities inside of him. So he spends the whole episode trying to get the scales in balance. And through that, you kind of see why Mark Spector is the way that he is.
Yeah, I love that they use the boat they're being ferried on, and it's basically like his life. So as they run through the different hallways, they find different doors, and each door leads to a different memory, which is great for these two personalities because they don't remember each other's side. So they get to walk through their other half's door and witness that memory and kind of have an understanding of why Stephen Grant was created in the first place.
Yeah.
We get to see how he was created based off of a TV show that I guess Mark Spector watched as a kid with the great Stephen Grant, Discovering Adventure. It made me think of, oh man, I can't tell you his flippin' name. The guy who's in Jumanji as like the welcome to Jumanji. He's in the Flag Means Death show on HBO Max. He is the New Zealand redhead face guy. I mean, if you just
I don't know.
In like 25 minutes, Mahaffey's going to have it on chat, and I'll be like, that guy. But anyways, he's Stephen Grant, and that's the name of the explorer, and that's where this kind of personality comes from. Is this very like smart, confident person who is very nice and kind, and that's what we get Stephen Grant from. He gets to be the nice one to Mummy, who is evidently this crazy abusive Reese Darby. Thank you, Mike. Reese Darby. But long story short, Mark Spector actually loses his brother on accident.
Allegedly. Have you read that it's very possible that Khonshu orchestrated the whole thing and he killed Mark Spector's brother?
No.
Yeah,
but
like,
I would
that's
love
like a
that.
huge thing, like because there's like allusions to it because he steps on the bird, the skeleton of the bird. Yeah, I mean, there's like this whole illusion that Khonshu wanted Mark for his avatar from the beginning and orchestrated all the events to break Mark's mind, to fracture his mind so that he gets his brother.
That's pretty fantastic.
Yeah, that'd be pretty. Yeah. I mean, it makes sense.
So, I mean, it is the death of his brother and then the continued abuse by his mom that ensues for years.
Yeah, that's not easy to watch.
No, dude, that shit was tough. That was so tough.
Yeah, and how he creates a fucking alternate personality as a coping mechanism.
Yeah, and so that coping mechanism being Stephen Grant is the one who basically is the kind, just please mommy so she's no longer, a jerk to me for however longer. And that gets to shield Mark Spector. And then what we kind of realize later on is that the same moment we kind of get a Jake Lockley creation, the one to deal and take the abuse, not to be nice about it, but to just endure the pain and then take that pain. In the books, Mark's brother doesn't die and becomes a villain. Oh, surprise.
Sean also says, I'm guessing the first part of when he was, what we were talking about is it reminds him of Ewan McGregor in Trainspotting, which makes sense.
And of course, Mahaffey also pointed out that Brad Pitt in Snatch, when he gets knocked, he hits the mat and just falls into water. That is fantastic. I feel like having never been knocked out yet, I don't plan on it.
It's not fun.
That is probably what it would feel like, maybe. Being submerged and having no control over it. But yeah, so to your point though, this episode was great just because we had so much character building with Mark and with Steven, and then of course Jake Lockley, who we saw, we can assume, in a darker looking sarcophagus, not being let out. And we actually get a little bit of a tickle of Jake Lockley, and believe in this final episode, it was the beginning of the ending of number 5, where he's got a piece of tape across his nose from look like a bandage, very similar to what you'd see like a boxing bandage. And I love that we get that little bit of a nod of like, that's the fighter in the group, right? And his accent changes a little bit. It's more So a little
New York. It's very New York.
New York. Yeah, very heavy New York. Maybe what if we don't like that? You know, that what if we don't like what you think kind of thing. And it felt very like Robert De Niro in a way, like just coming
Raging
out
Bull,
and
Taxi Driver.
Yeah.
Very much. I'm sure that's what,
It's got to be an exact copy. He's like, I'm just going to do that. But yeah, I love that little peak that we start to realize, like, okay, each time Steven was starting to wake up and he's surrounded by dead bodies, Mark was having those same moments.
Right.
And we're starting to realize that all the murdering is not by either of them. It's all Jake Lockley. When he pops up, things lose their life. And you're right. It's at the end of this episode that we see, the culmination of what it really means for Mark and Steven to kind of see the other side of the story, to have the understanding, to build that bond of trust over those shared experiences, and realizing why the other one needed each other, really. And we have Steven, who sacrifices himself to save Mark, freezes in the sands on the way to the field of reeds, and Mark has his heart balanced and he gets to go into the field of reeds into heaven, and we end on that episode.
Very Gladiator.
Yeah,
with the hand on the I mean,
I had the same level of like, I am not happy right now. It ended, but I'm not pleased with it.
It's super. Mike heavy. And I talked about this pretty regularly. Those Marvel shows have a lot to clear up by the end of the episode. Like, there's a whole plot to this show that you've spent 5 episodes building to, that the last 2 episodes, 4 and 5, do nothing to move forward. Like, it really, the whole plot of Harrow wakening Ahmet, and then like the rest of the Aeneid showing up and like banishing Khonshu, like, you do that at the end of episode 3. You spend all of episode 4 and 5, like, kind of dealing with that, like with like Mark Spector's death and all that stuff. And then like you got a whole fucking show to wrap up in 1 episode. It's the shortest finale it was short. It was 48 minutes. It was the shortest finale in all of the Marvel shows, and they fucking stuck the landing. I don't understand it.
I mean, I think it plays off of the fact that it's a person's broken mind, so you're okay with a little bit of a broken up story.
Yeah, that's true. I think you're absolutely right about that.
I think we've been put into a comfortable place of like disjointedness, whereas this next topic we're talking about, and it's disjointedness, did not work for many people. But
namely, I hope one person on this show. But we'll get
to You're not alone, man. You're not alone. A lot of the big tweeters were tweeters. But no, let's circle it all up. So last episode, you're right. We get to undo all the shit that happened in episode 3. We get to bust out Khonshu. Thank you, Layla, for doing that. Khonshu's like, be my avatar. And she's like, go fuck yourself, bro.
Pretty much. Yeah.
You ruined Mark's life. You ain't gonna ruin my life. And she's like, think of another way, dude. And he's like, oh, bitch. And he goes off to basically fight Ahmet 1-on-1, which Ahmet looked awesome. I don't know how you can make,
bro, like, how's the CG in this show better than fucking Doctor Strange's Multiverse of Madness?
I know. Well, what's funny is I like the CG in this show, and I got a lot of. I actually had one person like pointing out several tweets and several people online, and was just sharing with me like, "See, this person didn't like the CG in this spot. They didn't like the CG." I'm like, well, to be fair, I was watching every single episode like before 10 a.m. whenever I would have time for a shower, like on a little stand. So CG at this big looks amazing,
right?
So didn't affect me at all. But I just didn't want to have spoilers. Yeah. I wanted to be able to get on Twitter for the day or any social media and not be like,
don't even get me fucking started about Twitter.
Yeah. But I think it was definitely a great, awesome fight scene between Ahmet and Khonshu. I love just the treatment of those gods, and Khonshu being like emaciated as like a god, an outcast god with that, just the skull for a face. Awesome. Ahmet being an elegant alligator woman.
Fucking dope. And you get like a kaiju battle.
Yeah, you get a huge.
There's so much shit that happens in that last episode.
And then simultaneously, we're getting a mirrored fight between Mark Spector and Arthur Harrow, who are just going toe to toe and kicking each other's ass. Motherfucking kaiju battle.
He's absolutely right. That's what I'm saying. That shit was hype, dude. Let me tell you. I love the whole show. I mean, I like.
What was your favorite part of the show?
My favorite part of the show was episode 5. The whole you get the background of Mark Spector, the whole emotional side of it. I suffering from bipolar disorder through my recently diagnosed in the last 5 years, suffering through bipolar disorder. Know what it's like to kind of feel you're not in control of your head the whole time. Yeah. Where your kind of emotions are driving you towards something else that you're not wholly cognizant of. I really loved how they handled it there. I mean, hats off to Oscar Isaac. I mean, between him and Pedro Pascal right now, the Latin force is in full effect. You know what I'm saying? Put them in everything. Let them, do that. Mike Mahaffey and I were talking about where Pedro Pascal could fall into the MCU, and we'll talk about it when we're talking about Multiverse of Madness because it's one specific character. And I was like, yeah, absolutely. And then yeah. So I mean, I really liked this show. Mike said, I love Hippo God, and if Gore kills her, I'm out. I bet the whole Egyptian Aeneid gets wiped out.
I told Mike, I was like,
he's about to fuck everybody up. Russell Crowe, Zeus is dead. All of them are dead.
I think Taro is going to be maybe the first one to go that we know of. The character we might see. And I say that only because she was adorable and was there to just ready to help. And her stance on, I've got a great costume for us. And that big Layla reveal with the wings and fucking sword shit was very Loki throwing out swords into her hands kind of thing. I love that reveal. But I mean, that's definitely going to be it's got to, that first death has got to set the tone. Now, granted, we've already seen one of the Thor: Love and Thunder. We haven't even talked about that.
We'll talk about between this and Multiverse of Madness because
there we go.
We should talk about it for sure.
Yeah,
it was a minute and 35 seconds of a trailer.
We'll wrap this last episode up. The battle ensues. Good wins at the end of the day. They re-put Amit back inside of a container, not a stone one, but a human one. They imprisoned her inside Arthur Harrow, and Khonshu is like, you have to kill them, and this is the only way. She'll get out again. You don't get it. And Mark's like, fuck you, I'm free. I'm not doing that shit. Leave me be.
Is he free?
But he ain't.
Because he ain't free.
He ain't free. Because guess what? It only took one personality to accept Khonshu for the other ones to have the power too. So you're going to have everybody agree, I think, for him to get the boot. And Jake Lockley ain't saying shit.
And I mean, so Sean posted that they hope they do a season 2. And that's something to bring up is that as of right now, there's no plans to do a season 2 of Moon Knight.
Yeah, this is just a limited run right now.
Which is unfortunate because they end the whole show on a massive cliffhanger because, Arthur Harrow's in the insane asylum. He gets pulled out. Some dude speaking Spanish. I thought it was the dude. I honestly thought it was going to be Ghost Rider, but it's not. It's Jake Lockley. He's pushing him out. He puts him in the Rolls Royce limousine. Jesus. White with Rolls Royce limousine with
Spectre on the license plate.
Yeah. Khonshu as in the Mr. Knight suit. And he's like, I want you to meet my friend, Jake Lockley. And you pull up and you see, and then he in Spanish, starts and then fucking caps Arthur Harrow. And you're like, that's it. That's the end of the whole series. I need the rest of this.
I love that shit. It's so good.
It was so good.
I gotta. Oh, nice call out, Mahaffey. The final fight where Mark and Steven with a V worked together in a wreck shop was incredible. I definitely got to agree that those transitions between the suit and the hood, and then the suit back again, and then float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. Because I mean, my name's Steven with a V. Whatever he says, that shit's great.
Yeah, those transitions are nuts. And it reminds me. So I was watching. I won't go too off topic, but y'all know that
we're excited to see each other. I get it.
I'm a massive hip hop head. Okay. And Kendrick Lamar put out a song yesterday because his new album comes out on Friday, and he puts out The Heart Part 5 yesterday. Nice. And the whole video, it's like 7 minutes of a video, and he's rapping, and his face transforms a bunch of times through the whole video. And it's a deep fake of him rapping, and it's just this seamless transition. And it's like OJ Simpson, Will Smith, Jussie Smollett, Kanye West. And at the end of it, I got super emotional because the end of it was Kobe Bryant and then Nipsey Hussle, who, you know, both passed away. Mm-hmm. And I was like, God damn, Kendrick Lamar is good. But that's what it reminded me of, is like this whole the Mark Spector and Arthur Harrow fight, where like Moon Knight and Mr. Knight keep interchanging. And it's like, it's seamless transition, and it was so expertly done.
Yeah.
And I fucking loved all of it. I love this show pretty much through and through. It's my second favorite Marvel show.
What was your first right now?
Hawkeye. Hawkeye, hands down, was the best.
Really?
I fucking loved Hawkeye start to finish. Everybody hates Jeremy Renner. I think he's very good, especially in that role. And Kate Bishop and Yelena, what's her name? Not Romanoff. It's Yelena. Shit, I can't remember her last name. Belova. Yelena Belova.
There you go.
Carried the whole fucking show.
I mean, even the Tracksuit Mafia was great. Echo was great.
It was great. Echo was great. Kingpin, again, yeah, it's the best show in my opinion.
I gotta give a shout out to Sean. He saw that Kendrick Lamar one this morning. He said their fight definitely shows how at peace they are, and they were able to work together. I love it.
You see the concept art for Jake Lockley's suit though? It's the black Moon Knight suit.
Oh fuck
yeah, dude! They got to do a second season because what I want is Jake Lockley to be in a fight, and then something happens, and he slips up into Stephen Grant as Mr. Knight, and and Stephen Grant's like, "What the fuck? Why are we here?"
We said no. We said no. Just gets punched in the face.
Yeah,
that would be fantastic. No, I mean, I love that episode, and to your point, it ended with a bang with Jake Lockley, and it also ended with them still strapping their legs into the bed, like forgetting about that. Like, it's awesome. It's so good. And now it makes me think that Jake Lockley was the one always latching himself to the bed.
Well, everyone's like, did Jake Lockley set up the date with the person at the movie theater? Because like it was not the movie theater, but the person at the museum. That girl.
What's a vegan gonna want with steak?
Right, because we know it's not. We know it's not Steven, and we're pretty sure it's not Mark. So Mike says, I'm pretty sure having Jake be a villain is going to piss off the dissociative identity disorder community. I completely agree. Don't make guy who has
all their personalities going to be pissed off.
Actually be the villain.
I would love to know if the DID community had different logins. I mean, assuming so, right?
One thing that after reading about this show, and this is one of the problems that I had with.
I'm sorry, I'm just imagining different identities arguing on Reddit. Just like, who the fuck is JTwat99? Fuck you. Hey, Ricky B, go eat a D. You know, like
just arguing with themselves.
Yeah, that's good shit. But I digress.
So the one thing that I have an issue with all of Phase 4 right now, and I'll talk about it in Multiverse of Madness because I think it's even more prevalent there. It's like, what are we building to? And after reading about some of the production things that Moon Knight went through, the director had this scene in mind where Mark Spector and Stephen Grant confront their mother in that white space that they're in when they're in the insane asylum, when they're trying to even out the scales, that there was a scene where they were going to confront their mother together, their abusive mother, which I thought would have been incredible. They should have done that.
Right.
And then there's also a scene that was cut because it was too expensive, where it was going to be a flashback of Khonshu fighting, but with Kingo from the Eternals. Oh. And I think they were saying like 3 other Eternals. My guess is it would probably be Kingo, Makari, and Gilgamesh, and maybe Thena, that they were all going to be fighting with Khonshu. So
that would have been badass. And to your point, cool. it would have been way too expensive just for those actors alone. I mean, granted,
like they're in the damn Egyptian museum in London. I can't remember his fucking name. The guy who's Jon Snow's character in Eternals. What's his name? He's a Black Knight.
Yeah, we'll go with that. Black Knight.
Black Knight is the curator of a museum in fucking London.
Right.
He should have been in the goddamn show. Gemma Chan works at the same Cersei from the Eternals works at the same museum.
Even just walking in the background.
Right.
Talking about nothing.
The overall universe. Like, there's not like the Marvel shows have seemed pretty disjointed up until now.
I mean, I will say they did give a nod to the Eternals, and I don't know if you saw it online, but somebody freeze framed at the right moment. Cersei couldn't have been there. Obviously, she had already been taken away by that Celestial in the movie Eternals. Spoiler alert there.
Had they?
When Stephen Grant goes to spin back time, there's a part where it's those 6 eyes from the Eternal in the skyline. You actually see them. Right. You see them sweep across the sky.
Dane Whitman. That's absolutely right. It is Dane Whitman.
I was going to say it is a legit English white man name. I mean, it's almost Dane Whiteman.
Yeah, very close.
Damn, white man, but Dane Whitman. But yeah, I mean, it kind of ties in. But to your point, they probably had a bunch of seeds of that, and it got too expensive. I mean,
which makes sense. But I think Moon Knight stands very well on its own. And you can watch it, and like this is again one of the issues that I have with the next topic, Multiverse of Madness, is that you can watch Moon Knight in an echo chamber and fully get what's going on. If you watch Multiverse of Madness as an outsider coming in,
yeah,
you're like, who the fuck is Wanda Maximoff?
It's a fever dream.
What is the Darkhold? What is a multiverse?
Who names their child after a continent? America. That sounds like a patriot right there.
Right.
It's my child, America.
So verdict on Moon Knight. What did you think?
I'm going high, man. For me, you always remember your first. I'm gonna enjoy Loki until the wheels fall off. Give me Tom Hiddleston as being a bad, good guy, anti-hero with Owen Wilson all day. Plus, you get Kang the Conqueror, which is who I think we're really building up towards right now.
Are we?
That's what I hope. Kang and Doom, I think, are definitely the two big bads we'll be seeing. But they're going to. I mean, there's so many storylines now; they're all going to be split. We've talked about it before, being terrestrial, celestial. It's at home or it's intergalactic. And even Loki in the Loki variant, that timeline where he's caught in a storm in a store and he's first trying to find what's her name, Sissy? No,
Sylvie.
Sylvie, thank you. It was an S. Trying to find Sylvie for the first time. Supposedly, it's the same timeline in the same area where the X-Men are actually fighting Kang the Conqueror, and it's supposedly all that blow off is from Storm doing battle and things like that. So, like, allegedly, there is a lot being led there. I like that. The next thing I liked, to your point, was Hawkeye. Guess what? I have a last name, Hawkins. My dad flew E2 Hawkeyes. I love me some Hawkeye. I'm always gonna love it. So that was definitely right there. Plus, I had a golden retriever as a kid. Pizza dog, amazing. Lucky, so lucky.
I had a golden retriever as a kid too. So I also love dogs. I don't care what they look like, their size, or
that's
anything.
True. As long as they love kisses and belly rubs, I'm good to go. Battle World with Kang at the helm. That's what Mike thinks.
I mean, fine. Like Battle World with Kang at that. Like whatever. Like at this point, I don't give a fuck about what's going on in the MCU, and it's really driving me crazy.
I mean, I think it suffers from the Endgame syndrome. You got 12 years. It had a nice little ending. They got a bow on it, and now they got to restart. And it's like,
the first 4 movies of Phase 1 were Iron Man, Incredible Hulk. I mean, kind of Incredible Hulk, Iron Man, Iron Man 2, Captain America, and Thor. At the end of Iron Man 1, Samuel L. Jackson shows up and he's like, I'm with S.H.I.E.L.D. and I'm putting together the fucking Avengers, baby.
And there's the
want to talk about it. And then it continues through the rest of the fucking thing. Phase 4, it starts off with Black Widow, which takes place after Civil War, in between Civil War and Infinity War. And you're like, all right, cool. You get a backstory of Natasha Romanoff. That movie should have came out 4 years ago at this point.
Yeah, we all agree that was a fuck up.
And then you get Shang-Chi, which I loved Shang-Chi as a intro story. And then Wong shows up at the end of Shang-Chi and he's like, let's go, blah, blah, blah. And then you have Eternals, which introduces Eternals, and they talk heavily about why they weren't involved with Thanos. It directly correlates to what's happening in the MCU from a cosmic level, because Arrow shows up and Thanos' his brother, and they're going after, you know, Cersei and the rest of the Eternals that get kidnapped and all that stuff and all of that. And then you have the black, whatever it is, whatever sword that is that Dane Whitman is looking at, whether it's all black or whether it's the actual
Necro sword or something like that.
Yeah, whether it's all black, the Necro sword, or it's something else. And then Mahershala Ali's like, "You ready for that, Mr. Whitman?" And you're like, "Fuck yeah, okay, I'm cool, I'm in." And then you have Spider-Man No Way Home, that's like this nostalgia fest and this actual like origin, the finalization of the origin story for fucking Peter Parker. And you get the fan service of Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield coming in, and they kind of break the universe, and you still don't kind of know where the thing is headed. And then we come to Multiverse of Madness, and you're like, where's the payoff for anything that's being built up? And nothing exists in this fucking movie.
I think before we jump into that, I know we talked about Thor. I want to at least put a button on the God debate and gore and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
To your point, you just listed off a repeat of what started in phase 1, right? Origin stories. We're getting a shit ton of origin stories, a little bit of sprinkles here and there. The formula worked, and I think they're going back to it. Maybe that's a mistake, but it is setting down these little tiny Easter eggs. So I think, for now, I've said this to you and Mike the other day. I'm not rushing out to see a release except for maybe Thor: Love and Thunder. That might be my last one for a while. This is how you get me
with a fucking Marvel movie. You put Guns N' Roses in the trailer, and you put Chris Hemsworth in a fucking trucker hat and a cutoff t-shirt, and you're like, all right, now we got like the 80s training montage with him and all that shit of him getting fit and all that. And then you have Mighty Thor with Jane Foster. I mean, that was a minute and 45 seconds of pure like, all right, I'm gonna go see this movie. This movie looks fucking sick.
And it had nothing to do with the bad guy.
At all. You don't even know what the bad guy looks like.
You don't know if there is one. It could just be like this whole movie. I'd watch it if it was just like, you know what? This is what the transition from Thor being like, I love to kick ass, and that's all I do is fight for 1,500 years. And I'm just, you know what? I want to take a fucking break. I'd watch that. I'd watch that movie. Just like Thor takes a break. Give me that. He loses that weight a little bit. He has a little come to Jesus moment with himself. Like, I need to snap out of it. And he walks away from war. But we don't even see Gore the God Killer, but we see his effect. And what's great is it's a massive ice beast that Thor just remembers battling him 100 years earlier in the comics. Like, what happened to you? And it's a shot for shot of fucking straight out of the comic book.
Right out of the book.
It's beautiful, dude. It's amazing. And if people even pull it up side by side, the only thing that's different is, of course, we get Korg, which is always welcome. Taika Waititi can do no wrong. So, Guardians of the Galaxy, Thor's Day Off.
I fucking watch it.
Hell yeah!
I think
that shit starts off the movie.
The thing that's really kind of like getting under my skin is like, even beyond the Nick Fury thing, the disconnected Marvel movies from the earlier phases still felt connected to the Marvel universe as a whole. Like Doctor Strange, the original Doctor Strange felt completely disconnected from the Marvel universe at that time, until it was like, oh, he's holding one of the Infinity Stones. We know that the Tesseract is an Infinity Stone. We know that I don't
Power Stones and Guardians of the Galaxy
or after
right. GOG, I thought was before that.
Yeah. So I mean, like, we're kind of like all these disconnected movies are building towards like this Infinity Saga, and I think that's what's going on with these incursions. Like, I mean, and we'll talk about it when we dive into Doctor Strange a little bit more. But like, it's just, I don't give a shit about Battle World at this point. Like, and I don't really care about Kang the Conqueror at this point. Like,
I'm hoping for great things from Thor: Love and Thunder, but I got to tell you.
That's like the gotta go with them in phase 4 to hook me is like Thor: Love and Thunder.
I think what kills me is that I enjoyed Black Panther the #1 so much, but obviously the loss of life, but on top of that, all of like the weird like selfishness that it sounds like is coming out of that movie at the moment from different actors it drives me to not want to see it, or at least wait.
It's really difficult for Black Panther because, like, I watched Black Panther 1, and the chemistry between everybody on that movie is exceptional.
Hell
And
yeah.
I mean, Chadwick Boseman is charismatic, and Michael B. Jordan as Eric Killmonger is also very charismatic, and they carry that movie. And I mean, the side characters of Shuri, she was like cool, like she's the cool younger sister.
Right.
You know, you have M'Baku, you have Okoye, and then you have I can't Lupita Nyong'o's character, Nakia, and you're like, all right, they all play together, but like Chadwick Boseman's like the fucking catalyst of that, and I don't know if that movie Black Panther 2 is going to be able to kind of hold on to that.
I'm definitely curious where they go with it.
I'm very curious because they're not going to recast him, which I think is a mistake at this point. I would say probably it makes sense to recast him. And I mean, like someone like John David Washington could come in and play fucking Black Panther very well. He has a very similar cadence to Chadwick Boseman.
I'm curious too if they even lean into any of the like the Ennead with Bask as being like the god.
Yeah, because he's mentioned specifically and like that's the connection to the greater MCU is that Bast is mentioned in Moon Knight.
So, I think there's hope. I mean, there's hope there, but again, I'm just not driven to go see anything anytime soon besides Thor: Love and Thunder, just because I enjoyed Ragnarok so much. And that's, I hate to say it, I've seen that little toy of Gore.
Is there a toy of Gore the God Butcher?
Oh, dude,
does it look bad?
It's sure as shit ain't comic accurate. I'll tell you that. I mean, if you look at what's his face, oh my god, I'm terrible with names tonight. The Maw from
Ebony Maw,
yeah, looked amazing. Looked just, I mean, pretty creepily to the comic, right? Like, pretty good. We just get, I mean, I know Christian Bale's a famous actor, and they think that moneymaker's here, but like, you don't need. I mean, Josh Brolin, that's a famous face, and you put a butt chin on him with a bunch of butts. All the butt cracks on that chin, and he crushed it as Thanos. As Sean said, "Ew, gross. He's got a nose." Yeah,
he doesn't look great. Yeah,
he doesn't.
That's unfortunate.
It's like a monk. It's like an angry monk that's coming to kill gods, and I'm just like, fine. I mean, I don't get it, but
we'll see.
I
like Taika Waititi, so
yeah, in Taika we trust. So let's actually bring it all back. Now that I've ranted about Thor, that 1.5 minute trailer took 6 minutes to talk about. Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness. Overall, let me give you the score online here, just to give us some discussion points. First off, it's Doctor Strange casts a forbidden spell that opens the doorway to the multiverse, including alternate versions of himself, whose threat to humanity is too great for the combined forces of Strange, Wong, and Wanda Maximoff.
That's not true at all. That's not even remotely
totally
what the movie is.
A lie. First off, yeah, that's
Nothing
a lie.
Can happen in Spider-Man: No Way Home is relevant in this movie.
They brought you in under false pretense. IMDb rating is only 7.5 out of 10, which is identical basically to the percentage score of Tomato Meter, 75% on Rotten Tomatoes, but the audience is giving it 87%. Critics' consensus is Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness labors under the weight of the sprawling MCU, but Sam Raimi's distinctive direction casts an entertaining spell. That's a well articulated way of saying what I've been saying. If you like Sam Raimi,
you'll like
this movie.
Yeah,
I mean, it's the scariest version of the MCU you're going to get without losing everybody below the age of 17, right? Like, can't be rated R just quite yet. And I love Sam Raimi. I enjoyed his Spider-Man, the first two. I think that third one was definitely rushed, and they're just trying to make some money. We'll find out that those will be like the Schumachers of the Batman universe. But like, I definitely think it was a fun, darker movie. But unfortunately, to everybody's point, I think it was rushed. I mean, it was it's one of the shorter movies, and it's 2 hours and 6 minutes long.
Yep.
I mean, we just watched the Batman that was 3 hours long, which could have felt too long if you didn't love 4 alternate endings, basically. This movie right off the jump feels fast-paced as shit. You literally hit the ground running with America Chavez and Defender Doctor Strange trying to get to the Book of Ashanti. And if I didn't sit there and hear the word Ashanti and only think of the singer Ashanti, that distracted me for a solid 5 minutes.
Yeah.
I was like, what does she look like? That's Aaliyah. Is Ashanti still alive? Like I spent many minutes wanting to whip my phone out and Google. Like it threw me off that bad. I realized that might be comic accurate, but dang, I couldn't get past it. And then we get, this battle with a demon that's star power. America Chavez opens a portal, sucks everybody into it, but not before the Defender Strange is killed. And again, all that's in 5 minutes. We kind of get no real explanation except for boom, we get to jump to our Stephen Strange waking up in a sweat, having dreamt that whole thing himself, and antics ensue. I don't want to go through the entire movie blow by blow, because I'm going to do a terrible job paraphrasing it anyways. But I'll say off the jump, right? With Wong being the Sorcerer Supreme, I expected a lot more out of Wong. However, I feel like Wong does a great job of trying to just be the guy who knows a lot without being an asshole about it. Doctor Strange in the comic, he's kind of a prick. It takes him a long, long time to not be a prick. This Strange is pretty arrogant still. He just kind of goes, whatever, I'll deal with whatever happens next. I always figure it out. He's overly confident, and he's still probably a little bitter he's not the Sorcerer Supreme, as he constantly mentions, and also doesn't even bow to Wong, which is tradition. He's supposed to bow to the Sorcerer Supreme. But we get American Chavez, who shows up, is basically battling this temporarily invisible.
But it's not. It's like Shumagorath, but not Shumagorath because they can't use the name Shumagorath.
Yeah, it doesn't have little tiny other stars that come out and latch into your face and take your mind over. We do get an awkward wedding with Dr. Jane Foster, not Jane Foster, excuse me, Dr. Christine, and it's just like, why? Like, I get it. It's tough, but I feel like it's a little bit of a filler to remind you, oh, by the way, he does like her. I'm like, yeah, we remember the movie. It's Rachel McAdams. We all remember Rachel McAdams.
She looks great as a redhead, by the way.
I'm pretty sure she looked great and bald, but
I didn't really care for her as a blonde. She looks great as a redhead.
Oh, she had like a balayage in that first scene, right? Like halfway, roots showing.
When the future universe, she's a redhead.
Yeah. In the alternate universe, so we get this kind of, I guess, Steven is sad, right? And that's really shoved in your face. And then we get to jump to Steven's fighting. He's saving America Chavez. For some reason, he feels this bond because he dreamt about her last night, and she was fighting with a version of him. And there's that bond we're supposed to believe is so strong that right away he's going to do anything to save her. In the meantime, they figure out that octopus has runes on it, and runes is witchcraft. So who does Doctor Strange go to? We get a little WandaVision theme song trill, and then he comes walking into the orchard after we get a little bit of a scene of Wanda having a dream of her kids and that being torturous for her, and her waking up upset and immediately being just sad as well. As we go, everybody's sad. We all have losses, right? And it seems that nobody knows how to deal with it, especially Wanda. I talked about it. Me and you, Mahaffey, kind of talked about it a little bit. Wanda has an arc where she loses her kids that she granted made up, but they were very real to her. But at the end of WandaVision, she has this I get it moment. I'm gonna let it go. I appreciate it. I've learned my lesson. Holding on to Vision's face as he disappears into stardust, and we're like, man, she got it. But now we're supposed to automatically know that the Darkhold corrupts you.
That's what I'm saying, man.
100%. Like you try once, it's like heroin, baby.
You legit have no idea that the Darkhold does this to her. Now, don't get me wrong. The whole scene with them in the fucking apple field, the apple orchard, and she's like, "Why don't you bring America here?" And he stops, and she's like, "You didn't say her name, did you?" And I was like, "Oh shit, he didn't." And then the hex comes off, and you're like, "Okay, this is cool as fuck." But like again, all you get is like hints of the Darkhold, and they say the Darkhold in WandaVision, but it's not like the Darkhold is actually.
I mean, Agatha Harkness had the Darkhold.
Yeah.
And she wasn't Billy Badass, right? Like,
yeah.
She had duty fingers too, like everybody else seems to have when they use it. Like, again, maybe I need a little bit more time to adjust.
I mean, I think that Wanda in the movie was about as close as we're going to get to House of M Wanda ever.
Will we ever get it now?
No, considering I'm sure we'll never get House of M. They'd have to spend fucking 12 years building up to House of M. Like they did the Infinity Saga.
Well, Elizabeth Olsen doesn't age, so that's fine.
Right. Mike, stop trying to justify it, dude.
That's fair.
I get it. I understand that she killed her whole coven because of the Darkhold. Wanda goes from 0 to 60 in one fucking movie. Like in one instant, Wanda goes from I got it. I'm just, I'm like studying and all that shit to I will kill every fucking sorcerer on the fucking planet to get America Chavez. And don't get me wrong,
I can go to another universe and kill myself to take my kids.
Like the first part of that scene is fucking stupid, where she's flying around like fucking Iron Man shooting hexes at thing, and I'm like, that's terrible. When she starts using the reflections to try to grab her from the universe, that's incredible. I love it.
That shit was definitely Evil Dead to me. Like,
I mean, that's cool, and I don't like Sam Raimi. I really don't like Evil Dead. I could take it or leave it. Army of Darkness, I could take it or leave it. Spider-Man, I could take it or leave it. Like, I get it. People love Sam Raimi and they love that style. And I like that horror element of this movie. I do. But there was no, they had, the whole spell that happened in fucking Spider-Man No Way Home was so catastrophic that the entire universe had to forget that fucking Peter Parker existed. Mm-hmm. That every universe and every dimension had to forget that Peter Parker existed, and we get a fucking throwaway butt joke about Spider-Man from America Chavez in the beginning.
Shoots webs out of his butt. I don't know.
Obviously, none of that mattered at all. So, I mean, there's no payoff in this movie. This movie doesn't get to be the first big movie into phase 4. And it was there's no payoff. I don't feel like there's any payoff in this movie. The hype moment of the Illuminati showing up and it's fucking Reed and all that stuff, and you're like, oh, that's cool. And then they get fucking soloed, and fucking 5 minutes later, and Wanda kills every single one of them, and you're like, I guess that's cool. And
she's just a kid.
Strong as shit. And then at the end of the movie, America Chavez essentially almost kills almost goes toe to toe with Wanda, and you're like, well, this doesn't make any sense.
I agree with a lot of those sentiments, but that's kind of where I'm going to defend the movie. Is it's supposed to be scary, right? She's a Scarlet Witch. It's supposed to be this overpowered witch who's now been corrupted by the Darkhold. Granted, we're supposed to jump to that assumption. We get the scary through the mirrors stuff, and then we get this over-explained. Actually, we do get a fun little multiverse hop through session like we did in the first one, and we get a paint universe and a cube universe, and we get to walk past Bruce Campbell, who then gets a spell to get punched in the face by himself, like Evil Dead, over and over and over again, where his hand is literally trying to kill him. I love that throw out and the little throwaway jab. And Bruce Campbell being in so many of the MCU films is now like the best running joke for me. Which vindicates me from last year's April Fool's fuck up. Right. Thank you very much. He is in the movie. So it's
Mike, if you're going to be combative to me, get on the fucking show and argue your point. All I'm going to say to you, dog, like, I get it. Like the spell where he forgets Peter Parker is fucking Spider-Man. People know who fucking Spider-Man is, obviously. Like people know who Spider-Man is, and that spell was so important enough that it caused this multi-universal shift. Again, none of that is addressed in this movie at all. And like incursions, like I get it. Like there's an incursion happens, and Clea fucking Strange shows up at the end of the goddamn movie, and she's like, "There's an incursion. We need to go stop it." And I'm like,
so am I get to understand that every universe has their own set of dimensions, right? So there's dimensions 20, and then there's universes a bazillion. So there's 20 times a bazillion dimensions. That's annoying.
Sean says yes.
That's annoying. But what I liked is first we get the Sam Raimi style of spookiness with the dream walking, and it basically felt like the tree or that like demystified demon presence rolling through the hills of Evil Dead and things like that. So it was an homage, I think, to his style of creepiness. And I love that. What I get out of that too is we get to see the Illuminati show up, and that to me was right before the movie. No shit, right before the movie, there was a little featurette for Doctor Strange and Multiverse of Madness, which I was like, why would you put that before this movie? You bunch of fucking idiots. And it's Sam Raimi, and he's like, this movie was an opportunity, to give the fans what they want, but like not how they were gonna want it. And he was right as shit, because we got all the things we wanted. We got John Krasinski as Reed Richards. We get Black Bolt back for a little bit, which was awesome. I was more excited about Black Bolt than I was Reed Richards. We get the legit theme song from the X-Men 97 as Professor X rolls in. So
Danny Elfman killed the fucking score.
And Danny Elfman does the score.
Yeah, Danny Elfman killed the score. And I mean, yeah, I'm with you about Black Bolt completely. Because if they do World War Hulk, Black Bolt plays a huge part in the Hulk coming back from Sakaar or whatever. Yeah. And like, that's like, that shit is badass. I love Black Bolt as a character. And
I mean,
is it Anton Vance? Is that the actor's name?
I think that's right.
Like he was wasted in the Inhumans TV show, because the Inhumans TV show was a dumpster fire.
I mean, but them showing him just obliterating anything in that blast. Like in the comics, he barely whispers and just splits the moon, right? Like he's so OP'd. And if for Reed Richards being the smartest man in the universe, why would you forecast the most powerful person in the room who could kill you with his voice or with his mouth or whatever? What mouth? Shut up, Reed. Just let him talk. Just let him get punched in the gut once and go, ugh. She's obliterated. Like, so that irked me. For the Illuminati being so smart in that universe, what the shit? And I'll never look at string cheese or spaghetti or balloon animals the same again. And that's such a great way for somebody who's stretchy to get killed, by the way. Just
Hanson Mount. Mike does Hanson Mount. Thank you, Mike. He's also Pike in the new Star Trek TV show, I think.
Oh, he's great as Pike.
I heard he's great, yeah.
It definitely brings the pizzazz that you get from Bruce Greenwood from the movies, who's also a common voice of Batman. So you get that presence, but it's the original timeline. I could go on all day about that. I've got Captain Pike. This is the one who ends up in the chair that he can only talk with a beeping light. It's so I can't wait to see if that actually.
He does have great hair in that show. I've seen him on TikTok a lot. And
well, you know who they cast as Shatner, as Captain Kirk in that show now, right?
Who?
One of the guys from Vampire Diaries.
Oh, Paul Wesley.
Is that his name? Stefan?
Yes, that's Paul Wesley.
He's now Captain Kirk, so that's I don't know. Cool. I'm enjoying it. But yeah, so we get those cameos.
It's a cool scene. Like
Captain Carter, Captain Marvel. I felt bad for that actress being Captain Marvel for all of 6 seconds, and she just gets bodied, like, and gets literally crushed up by her own statue.
Yeah,
like, oh, oops. And then Mordo.
And there's also like little comic book nuggets in there because like Reed Richards is mentioning his kids, which there's a TikToker, Strawhead Goofy, who talked about that. And he's absolutely right. And
by the way, that guy is blowing up.
Yeah, he is. He's incredible.
He was in the beginning of my movie. He's like, "Hey, you guys ready for Doctor Strange?" I was like, "Oh shit, it's Strawhead."
If he hasn't, so if Reed Richards is like, "I got kids at my house. I got kids at home." Blah 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 blah. If those kids are even like 10 or 11 years old, they show up in Solo Wanda in any universe. It doesn't fucking matter. Franklin Richards is the most powerful mutant in the whole fucking Marvel comics. Like, he creates universes as a child. Like, he's the most powerful mutant.
It might have been nap time though, you know.
Could have been.
Can't make universes when you're sleeping. But at least there'll be someone there to raise them. I need that accent to be gone. I'm actually really, really happy that at the end of this film, Wanda's accent. Pick one. Yeah. Are you pissed off in Russian, or are you normal? Like, you know, just like, this goddamn. Pick it. Stick with it. Somebody be on her ass about it. You said that.
Mike brings up a good point that says they missed an important detail that Wanda in 838 isn't the Scarlet Witch, and would explain why Reed doesn't. It does. It absolutely does. You're absolutely right. In this universe, Wanda is clearly not who she is in
versus
the previous universe. That's fair. So she's, you know, for them to think that they can handle her was fine.
So let me ask you this then. Do we know, let me ask the producer on the show in chat right now, what universe is House of M in? It's not 838, obviously. It's not 616, it's the MCU. I'm curious. Because now we got Erica Chavez who's numbering them, and now we've got that other Dr. Christine who's a multiverseologist or whatever the made up term that is. But no, towards the end, I definitely, you know,
I don't really remember the last half of this movie after the Illuminati.
Well, after we get, we said technically 616. Okay. So towards the end of the movie, what do we get? We actually get Illuminati gets blown out. We get America Chavez and Doctor Strange running away with Christine, who's in her night nurse getup, running out of the building. They're running away. Oh, in the comic book universe, supposed to be 616. Interesting. So we get them running through the tunnels, trying to find the Book of Ashanti. They find that doorway to the Book of Ashanti. They get to the Book of Ashanti. Guess who shows up? Billy Badass, who has been limping behind them like a zombie possessed by a demon.
It's very fucking Evil Dead. The last half of this movie is very Evil Dead.
To be fair, you wouldn't be super coordinated piloting your own body from another universe.
So I completely agree with you. The dream walking stuff is interesting.
And she, you know, again, just annihilates the Book of Ashanti. That's Dunzo. And then we get, let me see what happens then. Oh, we get what's her face? America Chavez gets snatched back to that universe. And then we get the
Deadite Doctor Strange.
Yes, we get the Deadite Doctor Strange. We basically get sent to the Sam Raimi universe for Doctor Strange, where the incursion is taking place with Christine and Doctor Strange meeting. Finally, after this, that whole universe was trippy as hell. Just everything's disintegrating or turning into black goo, which to me, I thought was going to be a great intro for Gore the God Butcher, because that's what he looks like in the comic, is all that goo. But we get this Doctor Strange who's been living in a house of just basically micro dimensions. It's like a TARDIS, but a building. Every couple of feet is another dimension. And we finally get Doctor Strange with 3 eyes, and they'd have their little battle. And whoopsie doopsie, he gets shoved out the window, and then spike you later. So that Doctor Strange not being the one from What If, I think underwhelmed me.
A little bit, right?
Expecting like full on let's go fuck up some Scarlet Witch. Things got out of hand. I'm gonna go show her what's up.
Doesn't say that in the movie.
Great. Right. Oh,
doesn't say things got out of hand in the movie.
They mention it though. They mentioned the Illuminati saying that And all he had to say was that things got out of hand. Right? It was Mordo complaining about him, about Doctor Strange after reading the Darkhold. Like, to your point, that's a good catch. So then we get Doctor Strange. Now he's got that universe's Darkhold and uses it to do the same spell. And now it's like, oh, I learned a new trick. This is Doctor Strange doing what he does. He heard about something, he's going to do it too. Okay, now he's going to body walk or dream walk into a dead body.
Right.
And we get the ramifications of possessing a dead body and spirits show up. It's just this whole, we get a very fast explanation of what is happening immediately. And then, just like we get with him talking to American Chavez at the end of the film, we have Christine standing over him in one universe whispering, Stephen Strange, you're the master of the mystic arts, and their spirits. Use them. And it's supposed to be like this. Oh, I feel like there was an inside joke somewhere that somebody just deleted on accident in another scene. And now he suddenly can control the spirits instead of being ass kicked by them. And now he's using them as bat wings, like he's Dracula, and to fly over to another mountaintop. Like,
going back real quick, Mike said the music battle was badass. Mike Mahaffey. I turned to my wife in the middle of the movie as soon as that shit started happening, and I said, "This is the reason why Mike will love this movie."
Because of the Fantasia battle?
This is the reason why. Mike is the music guy. As soon as the fucking notes start coming up and it's Danny Elfman's fucking score and he's shooting fucking trebles and goddamn clefs back to each other, and I'm like, I looked at her and I was like, Mike's gonna fucking love this. Like,
it was very Disney. You can't tell me that wasn't like a very like Disney cartoon Fantasia.
It was like straight out of fucking Fantasia is what it was. Yeah, like. I mean, it was cool. Don't get me wrong, it was cool as shit. I was just like,
it was a fun way to fight, and you're like, okay.
Oh, absolutely.
They're doing riff-offs now, and like, and Mike actually shared something with you earlier and me today about when Reed Richards shows up and like the member of the Fantastic Four. There's evidently, I heard the line in the theater because there was only like 20 of us, and everybody's doing like the silent fist bumps because I think everybody just wants to hear it. Because if it was a packed room, nobody would have heard shit. Yeah. But I heard the line, and it was, I think, didn't you guys chart during the 60s? And come to find out, I guess there was a band called the Fantastic Four in the 1960s that did chart. And of course, that's a callback to him being like the music guy from when he was a surgeon and all that kind of stuff. So that's cute. I thought he was making fun of like the year they came out. Like the Fantastic Four, didn't they come out in the 60s? Which is another great reference. I thought it was more tongue-in-cheek that way, but it plays. But yeah, the music battle scene to me hits cheese. It hits the cheese factor because we're in the dark dimension. Here comes these bright notes. If it was more like red and black and blue all over, maybe, but because it was like, I don't know, highlighter glowy, I guess. I don't know.
And then they start playing fucking Beethoven. It sounded like it was Beethoven. It was like dun 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 dun, and I was like, I'm out. I'm totally out of this. This is taking me out of the movie. I mean, it looked really cool.
I wonder if that battle was meant to be longer too because of that. Like, I wonder if that itself should have been 10, 15 minutes instead of just being in a small room with two potentially Sorcerer Supremes. But I don't know. It to me, it felt like it felt a little bit like the fight scene we get with Anakin and Obi-Wan in Revenge of the Sith, right? Well, a fun lightsaber scene. In the book, it was so much more in depth, right? You get this kind of mental dance that they're sharing with each other by just changing stancing, showing the different fight style they're going to use, and it forces the other one to change their fight style. When you get to see those nuances, at least mentally, I think it's better. Unfortunately, we don't get that in the film, or we're not going to see it here in Doctor Strange. All we're going to see is a bunch of like really dexterous finger turning, and then maybe some. 616 had orange magic, and Incursion Strange had purple magic, like Agatha, since he was using the Darkhold. Ooh, there you go. Thank you for the explanation. That makes total sense. That means that Defender Strange would have had blue magic. Okay, fine. But we get to end up. What happens? We get Doctor Strange. She goes toe to toe with Wanda for a bit, and finally he gets the inspiration talk time with America. Hey,
worst
America.
Scene in the whole movie. This is the worst scene in the whole movie.
I need you to just believe in yourself, kid. Look into my zombie face and feel encouraged. Yeah, I'm going to still be freaked out that my would-be best friend, Doctor Strange, is talking to me now, and he looks like necrotic. I'm good. But no, she gets up and she punches a hole in the universe and just the like peep show into the other universe with that Wanda, who's been basically possessed all day, showing up for the kids. We get our universe's Wanda just trying to be like, no, it's going to be fine to my not kids. And the kids are obviously smart enough to know otherwise. It felt weird. It felt rushed. I got to admit that part. And Wanda again goes from like full on pissed off to completely broken in like less than 30 seconds.
I actually felt more for that scene than anything else in the movie, as far as emotion is concerned, where it's herself. Somebody posted that Marvel Phase 4 really showing you that the only person that you can actually count on in life is yourself. And it was like a picture of like Sylvie and Loki, and then like Tom Holland, Andrew Garfield, and Tobey Maguire hugging each other, and then like Wanda and Wanda. And you're like, yeah, you're absolutely right. That's true.
I mean, works from Moon Knight too, man. Mark and Steven.
Yeah, right. Mark and Steven, yeah. The only person you can count on is yourself.
So, but no, I mean,
I like that scene. Where she's like holding her face and all that, and I'm like, okay, that makes sense.
I mean, if you love yourself enough, I guess you'll listen, right? Like, okay,
right.
Fine. Oh, I should have just come over to this universe and give you a hug. Strange's arc in this movie was all about letting go of the knife and trusting someone. Are you Googling this?
No, this is how like Mike. So Doctor Strange is Mike's favorite character, and let me tell you what. He loved the first movie, which I agree with is a great movie.
Hell yeah.
But like he just loves that character, and Mike. So here's what happens with Mike, and he's right about this movie that
you know he's going to get so irritated with you. He's just going to pop up in this show.
Oh no, but like no, this isn't a bad thing at all. Like this is what Mike does.
Just going to comfort you
because there are mitigating factors that are external to this that are probably the reason why I'm so critical and don't really care for this movie. And he says his whole thing is like people that we normally agree with on things, and like people that things like Mike and I are typically in sync when it comes to movies. We're like, all right, we like this, like this, and this is like the first time. And it's not the only time. It's happened like one other time where like it's completely divergent, where I'm like, this movie fucking blows, and Mike's like, that's not true. And what he does is he'll clue me into things that he knows will like make me think about the movie, and I'm like, oh, okay, like the Christmas Carol thing that he just brought up, and I'm like, yeah, that makes sense, blah blah blah. And I don't get me wrong, as soon as I like start thinking about it and everything, I'm like, this movie's not nearly as bad as what I fucking think it is. And then I talk about it today, and I'm like, no, this movie, like, I really didn't.
I'm right.
I really didn't fucking like this movie. And then I was talking to Ashley earlier, and I was like, I need to watch that movie again because I really was in a bad headspace when I watched it. So I need to watch it again. And again, like, I just want something to be built. Everybody's like, oh, they're building towards Secret Wars and everything. And I guess because, like, I don't know shit about Secret Wars, and I need to read it.
Oh, it's
maybe then. Yeah, like I need to like actually like read it. And I know the Russo brothers are doing Secret Wars, I think.
Well, it's not Guy Ritchie,
I think. So, I think this movie could have benefited from a Wanda Maximoff movie that took place in between WandaVision and this movie. Like, I get why Strange is where he's at. I do. Like, I really do understand it. He's lost Christine. He is not the Sorcerer Supreme. He needs to, and he goes to every one of these universes where they're telling him, no, you're the fucking problem, dickhead. Yeah. And he's like, no, man, Wanda's trying to fuck everybody up. And he's like, they're like, no, we don't give a shit about Wanda. Like, you're the problem, asshole. Like, you're the one that fucked everything up. You're the one who did this. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, I understand that. So you kind of get why he's where he's at. But like, I feel like none of that. There's none of that for Wanda. Like she's very upset about her kids and Vision. Like you spent all of WandaVision of trying to get to the point where she finally talks about it and she's grieving, and you have that really great flashback scene of her going to the house that Vision bought for them, and her like doing the whole House of M fucking explosion. And then like White Vision shows up and all of that. It just, it really could have benefited from either another WandaVision season or just a Wanda season where it focuses on her journey of learning through the Darkhold and all that stuff and kind of coming to grips with her past. But it doesn't feel like it feels like none of what she went through in this movie feels earned. I loved her in this movie. Don't get me wrong. It just feels like none of that was earned, because I think that WandaVision spent 5 episodes of like the shtick. Let's go through the decades from the 70s to the 90s or the 2000s.
Yeah.
And then tried to shove all of the emotional shit into 5 and 6. Which
I think, no, I agree. I think to your point, if we had a Wanda story in between this, or a whole Wanda movie, it could have easily been her just dream walking in those other universes and just getting and having the reasons to be pissed, and one of them being House of M, and people like Professor X and the Illuminati, basically trying to pull her down to heel, just be our bitch, and her having that anger build up. And I think seeing how in every universe she gets treated poorly, and not necessarily, this is not always true in the comics. Obviously she has kids and that kind of stuff. She gets Vision, but I think there's a lot of a background with Wanda that could have been pulled on, that shows she is, pretty much pegged as a bad person in every universe, right? There's rarely one where she's the perfect person. The Scarlet Witch is not a great name. It's feared, or people don't trust you. Like, you could have spent a whole movie and then had, cameos from like X-Men actors being like, "Hey Wanda, what's going on?" And just talking to her as like, "I can't believe Cyclops did that to you again," or whatever, like any kind of reference. Or you could have had, that could have been a Milky Way introduction for the X-Men, right? And then in this universe, not only does she not have the person she loves, not only does everybody no longer talk to her, she doesn't have her kids anymore, and her brother's dead. And this is what drives her to go, "Fuck that. I'm gonna be the one that at least gets something," right?
I mean,
turns a switch.
The whole mutant conversation is going to be very interesting over the next couple of years as they figure out how to bring mutants into the MCU. And I think people are very concerned about it. And Mike and I really talked about it a whole lot, especially in the vein of Charles Xavier and Magneto, and how the Jewish community is very adamant that Magneto keeps his heritage of being a Holocaust survivor. And, that was the big thing for him, while the other side of the community is like, make Magneto black. And everybody's like, well, no, we don't have any kind of Jewish representation in the Marvel universe, with the exception of Mark Spector, and the Jewish community is not very happy about how that was handled. I'm not entirely sure why, but Mike and I were talking about this, and I think that a great idea, and again, this isn't like my woke, I'm half black, half Latino agenda coming out, but Magneto and Charles Xavier have always been the shield and the sword, where Charles Xavier is like, I want to protect and defend and work with, or more so like the sword and the hammer. Like, he wants to build up and all of things, where Magneto's like, yo, fuck these people. We're better than all of them. And really, a perfect allegory for that relationship is Malcolm X and Martin Luther King Jr.
Right.
And, where Martin Luther King Jr. could, is is essentially the Charles Xavier, or Malcolm X is more of the Magneto. And with how the world is going and kind of that time period, that could be incredible
for sure.
For Fuck that to have that kind of, where, Magneto, his turn of becoming a mutant is him being a kid at the race riots. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then he becomes radicalized and, he's influenced by the Black Panther movement and all of that. And I think that would be a really great thing. But, I think that this movie came too early is what I think. I think that there needed to be more like multiverse shenanigans, if you will, through like TV shows or other properties.
Another season of Loki,
another season of WandaVision.
I mean, they definitely rushed it. I mean, I saw today that only 2 days after the ending of shooting WandaVision was she in London shooting for this movie. Like there was no gap.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's got to be. Well, I mean, it's got to be maybe easier to stay in that frame of mind, but like we're even talking about an actor trying to jump mentally from where they ended that person and that character in that show to the OP'd fucking 100% Darkhold person. So like it makes perfect sense why there's holes, and I think it felt rushed, man. It just felt rushed. It definitely felt disjointed. But at least the benefit is now we don't know. Do we know if Wanda's dead? We see a little bit of magic that comes out at the bottom of that
if she
temple
is
when
dead,
she smashes it.
I got even more of a problem with this movie, but she ain't dead.
Yeah, they never don't kill a character on scene. If they're killed off scene, they're still alive, right? That's the rule. Plus, that little could have just been a spell to burn all the dark holds in all the universe, which in all universes, right, was what supposedly happened. And then finally we get that cutscene. Yeah, Mike agrees. She ain't dead. There's no way. I mean, Elizabeth Olsen has talked about being ready to come back, and Benedict, he's ready to play Doctor Strange for the next decade, as far as he's concerned. I mean, I bet they're paying him at the yang, so she can teleport. That's a fair point. Don't need a Darkhold to do that. And so, I mean, like for me, I think maybe this should just be treated as an encapsulated fanfare film with a little bit of spookiness, right? Instead of like just kind of like Doctor Strange, right? It was part of the universe, but it stood alone. This is kind of very similar. I think we just got a little bit of a Sam Raimi, as I said earlier, put it, something for all the fans, but they're just not going to like the way they get it, right? And I think the reason it was so close to No Way Home and WandaVision is just good timing. Filming in probably the same studios during a pandemic and all that stuff. I feel like there's reasons it was timelined this way. And maybe that just gives them a break from these characters and the magic side of things so they can now go into the celestial path.
There's one other thing I want to say, and you just brought it up, was Doctor Strange 1. The end of Doctor Strange 1, Mordo takes the powers from the guy who played I
know who you're talking about. The guy who playing basketball, using magic to be able to walk.
Right. And Strange offhandedly mentions to Mordo in the new universe that, oh yeah, you hate me. And like, you've been trying to kill me. When, dog? When? Since when? None of that has happened.
We get none of that.
Typically, at the end of Doctor Strange 1, they kind of part ways, and he's like, I can't fuck with you, homie, because like you fucked with time. But like, there's no I will fucking kill you the next time I see you.
Yeah, it's just an allusion to like events that never took place.
That he's upset with him and all that. So I mean, I don't know. Maybe like I just need to get over it, and this is like its own one thing. And like, if they don't cast John Krasinski as Reed Richards in the regular MCU, I will fucking lose my mind. The only other thing that is what Mike said. We were talking about Pedro Pascal. Is like, what if Pedro Pascal was Reed Richards and like Stephanie Beatriz was Sue Storm?
Ooh.
Sign me up.
Ooh,
absolutely. I will absolutely watch that.
I mean, to be fair, was that interview I saw with Pedro Pascal? They're asking him like, who do you think is the better dad, you or Oscar Isaacs? And he's like, well, Oscar is a dad. He's like, now daddy's a
state of mind.
It's a state of mind. I'm your daddy. And all the duets from all these famous women are like,
even me.
So,
Jesus.
And
those two are like this. I mean, they're like best friends. Like, and
dude,
I mean, Pedro Pascal or Oscar Isaac convinced Pedro Pascal to do The Mandalorian.
Pedro Pascal compared Oscar Isaacs to the bald eagle Muppet because of his eyebrows.
Yeah,
and Oscar Isaac openly slapped him in the face. Shut up!
Right,
and they just kept giggling.
Yeah.
They're 45, 50-year-old, whatever their age is.
I love them both.
Toddlers. Just they don't know how to love each other without physical violence or goofing. Like it's great. I don't know how that friendship came to be, but I'm glad it did. It's definitely entertaining. But no, for me, I'm still on the 87% side of this movie. I just enjoyed it for what it was. I'm
gonna watch it again.
An encapsulated, kind of scary version of Marvel. The 75% people on the tomato meter, I could see why they feel the way they feel. Yeah. I definitely can see why you feel the way you feel, because it's definitely a sad, emotional movie. It's dark, it's brooding, and that's not usual for the MCU. We're used to this upbeat kind of quips here and there. Even when people do get choked out, so it's the beginning. At least it ends on a high positive note. And instead we get one random mid credit scene where an eyeball pops out of his head that we get zero explanation on. Just that, because you read from the book one time, you gain an eye. And then the next scene at the end, we get Clea showing up, carving a nice big hole in the universe. And she's saying, you caused the incursion, let's go. And he goes, okay, great. And that eye pops open again, which that's fine. I like Charlize. Welcome to the MCU. But yeah, it was like little to be explained again. It's like, again, we're supposed to understand. And if I hadn't just read The Death of Doctor Strange,
you wouldn't have
I wouldn't have known half that shit. So try giving it a read and then go seeing it again. Maybe
I think that's a good idea. I definitely will. I had something in my mind and I totally forgot what I was going to say. But yeah, I think that. Yeah, I'm sure, Mike. I think you're right. Absolutely. John Krasinski has said multiple times that he wants to be in the MCU. And casting him as Reed Richards is a no-brainer. I would love it if they still kept that he was an older Reed Richards and we didn't have to go they gave him the Spider-Man treatment where we don't have to go through the origin story of the Fantastic Four because we've done it in a few other movies.
I would prefer that version.
Yeah, where we get it Yeah. However, the one thing that is interesting that I'm interested in how they're going to address it is where the fuck has Reed Richards been?
Evidently in space since whatever that Super Bowl commercial was.
One of the people said it is the 60s Fantastic Four and there's some wired wonky time shit going on and they come back to Earth and they're the same age, but yeah.
Then who bought Stark Tower? Was it Doom or King?
It's got to be the Baxter Building. I'm sure it is.
I do love that in Moon Knight we get a little bit of Von Doom boxes in the delivery van. So I'm glad that that's being peeked at. Mm-hmm. But I digress. I think what's the guy from Peaky Blinders? The main character, Cillian Murphy. That's it. Cillian Murphy. People are fan casting him as Doom. I'd be okay with that.
I would be okay with that too.
He would be great Doom.
Yeah. If Mads Mikkelsen hadn't played fucking Caecilius, Mads Mikkelsen would be my pure choice for Doom.
I bet he's tired of being the bad guy though. But at the same time, he's I'm getting paid. Maybe
he's so good at it.
And then finally, I'll read this last comment and then we can start wrapping it up. The problem we are going to have is that He Who Remains pruned all timelines with Reed Richards. So where are they going to come from? Ooh, girl. Maybe now they're not pruned because they're all out there, right? They were pruned, now they're unpruned.
Yeah. I guess a timeline and a dimension is not the same thing. A timeline and a universe. They're not I don't know.
True. Maybe universes at different timelines, right? But anyway, I think the movie was fine.
Yeah,
we have our qualms, we have our critiques, but man, that was so much in a week, and I didn't get on the internet. I'm glad to be free of the fear of spoilers. It sucks that I think you and Mike got spoiled.
Reed Richards got spoiled for me. Yeah, and Mike too.
I can't believe that. Black Bolt, poor Black Bolt.
Yeah,
you deserve more, but he got some. But next week, so here's a new cadence, by the way, for those of you who survived and yet another long show. I'm sorry, there was just two big things we had to talk about this week. Next time it'll be something smaller, one topic, maybe a little bit something at the beginning, a little segment, and we'll keep rolling through these, try to keep it under an hour. Now we're going to start doing this either bi-weekly or tri-weekly, really when there's something big to talk about, when we have something to really sink our teeth into. Because again, the goal is not to be your weekly news report of all the headlines of BSery, but really to kind of give you reviews of games or TV shows, movies, things that we can actually talk about. We do want to we're also thinking about coming back and doing a little bit of streaming whenever that presents itself. Right now, I think we're all just a little bit busy. As Dominic announced at the beginning of the show, he quit his job. He's looking for that next one. I'm trying to move into this house. Yeah, it's going to be a fun summer. We got a lot of things coming up. We got Obi-Wan in like 3 weeks, so that's probably what we'll be back for.
Top Gun 2, same week as Obi-Wan.
Top Gun 2 already is it already out?
Comes out the same week as Obi-Wan.
Oh no shit. So yeah, I mean, there's stuff that we're gonna pull up on this show, and honestly, I think for that week we're gonna have to do 2 episodes, man. One for Top Gun, one for one for Obi-Wan. They're gonna need their own time, but I appreciate everybody stuck around. That's the end of our spoilers. I'm going to take that spoiler banner off. I'm going to go ahead and show the other one that everybody likes. Like, comment, subscribe. Remember to click that bell, get notifications whenever we are going live. We're also going to start doing these earlier in the week and releasing them later. So we can join you in the comments and actually add information to what we're saying instead of just filling dead air and waiting for Mike. Thank you, regardless, Mike, for filling in those gaps of knowledge in the comment section. Hey, Sean, shout out for being in the chat today. Appreciate you as always. Yep. And as always, thanks to everybody. Appreciate it. It's been a great week. Dom, as always, later, mate. Peace.